Hey, and welcome to another show of Tampa Fishing Outfitters Live Fishing Report.
Yes, sir.
We're back with a vengeance.
Jack.
I'm Captain Rick with Captain Travis and Captain James Beers tonight, and we're going to talk some fishing. It's been hot, but fishing has been equally as hot.
Absolutely.
My last 3 days, I know you. I haven't talked to James about his bite, but I have talked with Travis. We caught bait this morning, talked a little bit about it, then obviously on the ride up here. But I'm telling you, the bite has been extremely good the last 3 days for as warmer weather as we've had.
Yeah.
And I attribute that to some really, really cranking tides.
Yeah.
So.
And equally with the hot weather, that no wind, sometimes that can cause a struggle for me. But when the tide's moving.
But with, and my thing has always been, because I did struggle Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
It was warm, and I fished some people with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office tournament, which seems like I just somehow get lucky and do well during that.
The Trout King. I'm going to buzz out the Trout King,
got
man.
First base in Trout again. That's
nice.
Like 3 of the last 4 years we've taken first place. But I don't know how many anglers they have, but they said there was 47 boats. But anyway, besides that, Saturday was one of those days where you didn't have much wind, and I've always said that when you have those days where there's not much chop on the water, personally I feel like the fish get less active. They bury up because they don't have eyelids, and without anything breaking that up from that sun just beating in, if it's not a overcast cloudy day,
right.
You got that bright sun with flat water.
Yeah,
it's
not a good mix.
It's like you looking into a flashlight.
Yeah.
It just so. But we've had that the last 3 days, and it's been good. Now I have fished a little bit deeper than I've done a lot of trout and mackerel fishing these last 3 days with the that Tampa fantasy fish camp with the kids. My magic number for trout's always 4 feet. I just always feel like 4 feet is.
If not, it's a good working point. You can ease in or ease out.
I've always felt like 4 feet is that magic number, and I've fished a little bit deeper this week, starting Monday, and I'm telling you, it's been on fire. And I've fished all up around the Gandy all week, and
really,
I don't come up this way fishing, or up that way fishing much, but because of the kids clinic. And all that, it don't 4 hours. It don't pay to run from Gandy all the way back to my waters, and then try to get back. You don't get enough fishing time, and man, it's paid off to stay.
Yeah.
So you've been like what we've been talking about over the last few weeks, bay fishing.
Bay fishing. Yes, bay fishing.
Deeper water.
Not in the bushes. Did a little bit of bushes fishing Saturday because
what's up, Ken?
That was we were trying to catch that slam for the tournament, and we never did. We didn't even get a good snook. Our biggest snook was 25, and got the 24-inch trout, and never even
which is a hog. Rick, when you called me that day, and we're talking about trout fishing and whatnot, and you had said, "Hey man, can I come up there and see if we can get a big one?"
You've been getting some 26 and 27s.
Right, and you told me, he goes, "I got a 24," and I went, "Shut her down, dude. Go find something else."
But I couldn't.
Here lately, I'd say in the last month, 3 weeks, the big trout, what I've seen, at least the areas that I was catching them, they've moved on.
Well, there was bigger fish where I caught that 24.
Right.
The grass turned it into an unfishable.
Yeah,
that's been the huge
when I first started fishing
it,
you could fish it and it was fine, and then that grass started moving in and you couldn't have the bait.
That stuff
the fish was going to have to hit that bait in the first 10 seconds.
And then it's done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I left. No, I wanted to stay there because I know there's bigger fish there, and I know you had been catching some big fish, and I'm like, you know what? Let me call
Worth
Travis.
a shot. Worth a shot.
And I knew with wind direction, you wasn't going to be grassed up over there where you were at, and the grass don't not.
No, it's not.
Not to say too much because I don't want to give up spots.
No, it wasn't bad where I was at.
Right,
it wasn't bad.
It wasn't. I knew that the grass
bad.
wasn't going to get me over there, so I called Travis and said, "Hey, man,
can I fish your spot?"
Yeah, well, no,
pretty much.
I said, "Come on." I said, "No." I said, "Come on." But didn't I tell you? I said, "Hey, man," I said, and it's funny because another captain, Thompson, had called me and said, "Hey, you going up there to do some trout fishing or over there to do some trout fishing?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "We're going to get a few." I said, "But are you fishing a tournament?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "We're all catching release." I said, "Well, that's fine." I said, "I don't care either way." I said, "But I hadn't been catching them big ones." I said, "We're catching, a lot of 16 to 18-inch trout." Right. So I'm taking my crew that wanted to, have some fish to take home for supper. We were doing some trout fishing, and here as of late, I'd say the last week or so, we've been doing the mackerel thing, which is nice. Mackerel fishing is one of those things where you kind of need the weather to do the really fun stuff. Right. You can get on the edges of some of these flats, interior flats, and a lot of times when we're doing deep water trout, you're catching mackerel in the mix. Right. Now, as you transition into the bay, you sort of get away from those trout. You're more mackerel, cobia, groupers, sharks, even stingrays. It's just a different mix of stuff. So you kind of fish it a little bit different. And so we've been targeting mackerel over the last, I'd say, week or so. It's been really good. The bay fishing's been fun. Like you say, the weather's been beautiful out there to fish in the bay. You finally get a little breeze out there. It's not bad.
Not rocking all over the place. It's been great.
Not rocking all over the place. What I hate about what you're saying, when you are fishing the deep water trout and those mackerel come in, because I don't fish trout with the long.
Oh, those are tackle busters. Yeah. Tackle busters, dude.
So you end up losing. You end up losing a lot of hooks.
Yeah,
that happens.
That and the bluefish.
Saying that, we talked earlier in the year about maybe we should be a little worried about the trout. I'm going to go back a few months, before the first year.
Wintertime trout fishing.
We talked about the trout. Maybe there's something going on with trout, but we all know there's something going on with redfish, and we had talked about the trout a little bit. I'm here to tell you, there's
trout fishing's been really good.
Trout fishing up around the Gandy is insane. Mm-hmm. I'm talking, there ain't no shortage of trout up that way. I'm telling you. I mean, that's a big area.
I know.
That's a big area. I had the 4 kids on the boat today, and by 10 o'clock we had caught 50 fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't start.
That's awesome. They're hooked.
we didn't get to the spot until about maybe 10 after 9, maybe 10:30.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had caught 50 fish.
Yeah.
It was just, doubles, triples.
And that's fun trout fishing. Some people don't understand. Especially
a lot of underslot. Now, I'm going to say there's a lot of underslot trout.
Right.
But that's good, though. That's telling you that the fishery's
healthy. That's that one thing. That's that one thing, and because I'll take some artificial anglers with me at times. A lot of the folks that fish, they're
like a mannequin.
Yeah, they just sit there. Yeah,
fisherman?
They're real hard to get them to leave a bait alone. But a lot of the guys that'll fish with me, say from Homosassa, Crystal River, up in those areas, they don't catch a lot. that whole live bait scene like we've got, it's not as common up there, and so a lot of these guys throw artificials, and they'll come down and they'll trout fish with me, and that's the one thing that I've noticed over the, I'd say, even the last few years, because I've got a handful of these clients, is the difference that they see in live bait fishing for trout versus artificial fishing for trout. Throwing artificial baits. Now
they're saying it's better. With live bait?
They're saying it's. I'm not going to say it's better, but I'm going to say it's a different experience because, if you've never gotten a school of trout like chummed up where they're popping and blowing up, you're going to miss more trout than you're going to catch. When they come up and hammer the baits, and on an artificial type scenario, you may catch equally as many trout maybe on a day, but the bite that you'll see on live bait and the way that it goes down and the way you feel them.
Wouldn't you say that's more seasonal though?
Yes.
Like in the wintertime, we see a lot more trout on artificials than we do in the summer.
You can definitely say that. Now, there's areas in the wintertime that we fish, near Cockroach Bay that you can put on a clinic like we're doing in this late spring, transition into summer type thing. But I think in general, trout fishing in general, I think it's sort of underrated in terms of how fun it can be, and if you are really on some good numbers of fish and get them chewing real good and kind of get them dialed in, because we always talk about snook with tidal, swings and how tidal driven snook are, but trout can be just as picky when it comes to
the big ones.
Tides.
We were talking about that yesterday.
They're there. I mean, you can see them, or you've historically caught them on a pattern. And there's trout holes that I'll go to, and if I'm there on an outgoing tide, let's say, it's Big Daddy. Every other cast you're catching a bigger fish. Now you go there, say on an incoming tide,
2 hours before that,
2 hours,
the tide's coming in,
and you won't even catch one. Now the question is those fish move in, or they just in the area, just kind of laid down? The cool thing about trout is they can lay down, you'll never see them, especially in the grass we've got, and then all of a sudden, in the mystery 10 minutes, all these trout will start feeding, and they'll just kind of come out of the grass, and so it's a cool fishery. But not to ramble too much, guys, we are going to talk a lot of Spanish mackerel tonight. That's kind of the theme. So we've got some really cool stuff lined up. It's that time of year, bay fishing, summer hot, and especially if kids are on summer vacation. We've got a lot of kids out there wanting to do some fishing, and Spanish mackerel fishing in Tampa Bay is probably one of the best things to do with kids.
And I'm with Billy Nobles. This is the most underrated fish we got.
100%, man.
Look, that right there
is
that's Spanish mackerel.
Between sea bass and Spanish mackerel.
Sea bass. Don't forget the sea
bass.
That was
the
ago.
core.
That was
the core was built on sea bass.
With Pops was the sea bass guy. But I had Spanish mackerel for dinner last night. Awesome.
That's awesome. But anyhow, so we're going to talk a little bit about Spanish mackerel.
Ken, you don't need a permit to catch them.
Like I said, hang with us here. We do have some cool stuff we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some rigs on Spanish mackerel, save some of those high-dollar plugs that you've got. And if you are around Spanish mackerel, this is the type of stuff you want to use, and you'll actually bring a lure or two back home with you. And then after the break here, we've actually got a fish with us. We're going to set up a little cleaning station here, and we're going to clean a Spanish mackerel the way that we've been doing it on our charters for our guests. And the feedback has been nothing but positive. I mean, I got it from Rick. I'm not going to say that I didn't, but I got it from Rick, and I think it's been passed along just this little way to clean these fish, and I think it's a cool way. Yeah, it's cool,
especially with mackerel fishing.
Well,
lately.
it is, man. I mean, it's neat.
It's not.
And we'll amp it up, hype it up.
It wasn't my invention or way of. I mean, I got it from Greg McCullough. Greg McCullough got it from somebody in St. Pete, which I'm sure got it from somebody down. It's just a different way. We'll show you. But the thing about Spanish mackerel, you got to get that bloodline out.
Yes, sir.
If you get the bloodline out, man, they good eating.
Okay.
They don't have that strong taste, but you got to get all the blood out of him. No red meat left on him.
Okay.
And then you're going to have the fish that we brought.
Is a giant. You guys beware. We may need a wide-angle camera on this bad boy.
He's a little guy, but
Rick says, I've been on studs. He goes, dude, hey,
look,
James,
I have been.
Hey,
Listen.
I got it, bro.
Yeah.
Just you do your thing. I'll bring a couple hogs home. Yeah. We'll do it on the show. It's cool.
So this morning,
he brings this thing out of the cooler. When I go to pick him up, I go, what is that?
This morning,
is that a giant thready?
We're catching bait, and he's like, well, I'm going to go do just a stick-a-thon on mackerel. So I'm like, okay, good. I'm not going to mackerel fish today. So like at 11:30, I get a text. It says, gonna need you for a mackerel.
That's right.
I'm like, I'm not mackerel fishing. Yeah. So I went and we caught one, and it's not a big one, but you'll see how to do it. But he caught a bunch of mackerel.
I did.
But
I did. And my folks,
the grocery hunters today.
Oh, they were.
My folks today, and sort of found out after we got them on the boat and everything. But it was basically 4 13-year-old girls that had come into town. And their aunt was wanting to take them out and do some fishing. They've done the aquarium and a lot of the other tourist attractions, and they wanted to do fish. The one girl wants to be a marine biologist. Yeah. The one girl, so she was all into the bait and everything. But anyhow, so they wanted to keep as many fish as we could bring home for them, and they had I think it was 11 people total they were going to feed. So I cleaned all the fish like you're going to see us do tonight, and they're going to do a fish fry tonight for their family.
Cool.
And eat it fresh. That's what we got to do.
Steven's got a question. Long shanks on those trouts. That's where I was going with that a while ago, and I got chasing rabbits. I've been using. I haven't taken
the shanks off.
I've got long shanks on all my rods this week with the kids, because there are mackerel in some of the places that I'm trout fishing them.
Right.
It's actually helped me because it's saved some gut hooking.
Sure, especially
on
kids,
those trout. Yeah, because one kid's
and they're a lot harder to for a trout to choke down that shank. A lot of times they can't. It gets in there sideways.
I got one kid,
so you can at least get it out.
I'm watching him, and he's fishing. He's got a Rubik's cube, rod tucked.
Did he do it?
No, he didn't do it, but he was trying to do it.
He's like, I'm gonna do this between every fish.
He's trying to do it while he's fishing. So, point is, he's a good candidate for gut hooking a fish.
Oh, prime
but the
suspect for that.
Man.
But anyway, well, guys, we've got about
I got you, Ken. I was teasing.
5 or 6 minutes.
I got you,
Steven. We'll probably talk a little tarpon maybe at the end of the show. I've got a couple tarpon tournaments lined up for the next couple days, so we can go over a little bit of that. But like I said, tonight we are going to talk about mackerel. We're going to clean one here in a minute. What do we got up here on the table here, guys? We talked about bringing in some lures, and I'm going to let James.
Yeah. I mean, these are just the things. So, obviously, we get some folks in here that fish from piers, whether it's Fort DeSoto, Skyway, and they're always coming in buying the same things over and over. And, I mean, you see the pictures of these guys. They know what they're doing. So, some of the lures that have been most productive on mackerel, let's say you don't want to go out and mess around with whitebait. You just want to go to your mackerel spot. You've got a Clark spoon, it's kind of like they make the bigger ones for trolling kings. But this size here, you can cast. Crocodile spoon. I mean, just about everybody's seen one of those. Nice thing about these is they give you that long shank hook for a trailer hook in the back, too, that comes with it. But super productive. Really anything flashy, spoon-like. But I think the number one is the gotcha plug. You can throw this thing a country mile. 7/8 ounce, a couple trebles on it. It's a mackerel destroyer.
Don't tell everybody, Steven.
Yeah.
No, those are. I tell you what, I keep a handful of these on the boat. I've got a little box that I do, and I'll bust it out this time of year. I just got a little small dry box, and it's got 4 or 5 gotcha plugs, a couple boxes of long shanks, some little splitties, and some little pieces that I've already cut of 40-pound leader.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about maybe some rigs.
We do need to talk about that because I was using that the other day.
It works good, doesn't it?
Works really well, yeah.
Which I didn't come up with that. I mean, I think one of these guys ended up telling me a while ago, but it works really well. But yeah, these gotcha plugs are nice because especially when you get on the mackerel, and let's say you got some of those guys that just want to cast. That's another fish that you can just, even with live bait, you can just throw some live bait out and say, all right, guys, just let it rip, and you'll catch just about as many fish. So that's pretty cool. But what we got going there? Hang on 1 second, guys. There we go. So anyway, the mackerel fin, these are some of the stuff that you use. I tell you another one that a buddy of mine just reminded me of this the other day. You take a McDonald's straw with like 40-pound leader and take a treble hook and run it through there like a swivel on it. Even just, tie it, right to your leader and rip that thing through there. And for, pennies,
can have as many mackerel rigs as you want.
That got popular like in the 70s.
Yeah.
I remember that as a kid.
Seeing
that, and catching kingfish and
right.
Mackerel, and
you get those bugs come out of the back of it too when you.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, the thing that's cool about mackerel is you just have to get around them, and the coolest thing with mackerel, and I know that you've seen this, and I'm sure you have too, is there's been times where I've been sort of prospecting an area to mackerel fish. Right now, I may have a mark over and a mark over there, and we may just be looking for a new spot or just kind of cruising around. And when the mackerel fishing's on fire, you can almost just sit there and drift or idle, and you'll see them skyrocketing on baits right by themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, and you kind of see a few of those just go right here.
You know it.
It's game on. And a lot of times it's around the big schools of threadfin. You'll see birds doing glass minnows. All those any type of activity is going to be the target for Spanish mackerel. Ladyfish is another one.
Ladyfish don't jump off hook, but they jump on the hook. Mackerel jump off the hook, but not on the hook. People get that confused because people fish. I'm like, that's a ladyfish. If he gets, don't worry, that's a mackerel. We want to try to get that one, whatever. And then they'll see one like that. And they're like, oh, that's just lady. No, that's not ladyfish.
Right.
Because ladyfish don't free.
Right.
If you see a ladyfish free, there's something on his heels.
Right.
Yeah.
They're trying to get away from
something. And those mackerel, man, it's really cool when you actually catch one. You'll see this splash. Oh, what was that? But when you catch one, just skyrocket right by itself. And they're not huge kingfish. Kings, you can really see them.
Right.
But they're just so graceful.
Yeah.
And you go, all right, guys, there's some mackerel here, and then you start chumming a little bit and fire them up. So it's cool. But, guys, we're going to get set up here in a minute. Got about 30 people watching. What we're going to do is we're going to run a commercial here quick. And when we get back, we are going to fillet a mackerel. Captain Rick going to fillet a mackerel.
I'm dying to see that. And
the way that we've been doing it on our charters, and maybe encourage some of you guys to give it a shot.
Hey.
And maybe eat a few. So in a few minutes, or in about a minute or so, we're going to come back, and we are going to be cleaning a mackerel. So stay tuned, guys. Check out the TL commercial, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Hey, what's up, guys? That was short. All right, so here's the deal. Man, why y'all gotta? I should have rethunk the whole stand behind the hook. So, all right, guys.
He's right there.
Where are you?
Oh my gosh! All right, so we got an old mackerel in the grizzly here.
All right, now he's begging.
And Captain Rick, you need a hand with that thing?
Is he legal?
Yeah, legal.
This is whopper.
All right. Here we go. Check that beast out. I'm gonna walk over here and grab the camera.
Now make sure you walk us through what you're doing.
Yeah.
I want to know
all right, guys. If you can see that,
got it.
How are we looking? All right.
This is the best way to. Most people will take it and they'll clean it. What you there?
Most people, including me.
And they'll. You want to go down and flay them just.
The other key to this is these fish got to be cold, ice cold.
Certainly helps.
Get the mush if they're not.
Certainly helps when cold.
You got your bucket, Rick?
It's over there.
It's over there.
Ooh.
On the fly.
I missed
on the fly here, guys.
Yeah, missed a little in the bucket. And then typically what I do, because you got these little wings here on those. Typically what I do is I just cut those off like that.
Okay.
Feed the catfish those. And there's no bones in here, but I always just cut this off like so, on both of them.
Hey, you like that knife, Rick?
That sharp knife. And now on a big mackerel, you can cut this in thirds. You can boom, boom, but with these little, I just usually cut it right down the middle like that. And just because I'm type A,
Got to be equal.
I know it's crazy. Get that little tags off of there. And here's the part. This is
where it gets fun. You're gonna have
good.
to do one out to me here, Rick, so we can see it. I'm gonna get in there.
All right. That bloodline is right there.
Oh,
and that's what you want to get away from, that bloodline. See that?
Yeah.
So you just want to come right along. This is all bones right through here. You just want to come in like that and then go down at an angle and just cut that off. Now, you see that right there? You got most of the bloodline out. That's enough to give it a fishy taste.
Okay.
Just that little bit right there. What I do, because I normally don't try to get deep, I just put that off like that. That's ready for the frying pan right there.
Okay.
Show again. Give us technique.
And the big ones, man, you can leave a lot of meat on them and still get a chunk of good edible meat off of it.
Leave one with a little chunk on skin,
Yeah,
so you can see what they're cutting out of there.
See there? That's just an edible piece of meat right there. And then you're gonna have one each side like this.
Yeah.
And just because I don't like wasting, I go down and hit that dude like that. And you got that one.
Show them the inside of that, like
Bloodline.
yeah. Show them the side of it. Hold it up flat, like a.
Bring the water hose over here.
Do another one.
There,
We'll do it
Gatorade.
before you clean up.
The bloodline's down there. I'm trying to cut that out. If you
Right.
cut into that, you'll find that bloodline. It's
Oh
in
yeah.
there.
I'm just saying, like when you look at it right there from the side, how when you cut it out right here and right here, you know that's what you're cutting.
Right.
See that little V right there?
That's
You're sticking the knife in there
and
sideways.
that's
and
gives
coming
it
off
that
of it.
strong taste. And something else about these, and if you got a family, these are healthy. These got a lot of omega-3 oils in them. And if you got a family, you can go out there and catch. I mean, the limit is 15 per person.
Yeah.
So you can catch
Dude,
enough to
I
feed.
want to show them that skin when you're done with it.
Yeah.
See what it looks like from the side.
You can catch a bunch of these to feed a family. You can have a good.
Leave it on the table right there, Rick.
Travis, you always tell me.
Leave it
I'm
just
telling
like
you to do. Leave it right there.
Just like that.
That's what. See, that's what I always show at the dock.
Yeah.
See how that, like, you get that, and a lot of times, like, I won't even go all the way down to the skin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll leave a
Well,
little
you
bit,
try not to.
a little bit, and that's some of that fat and that skin meat. That.
But that's, I mean, right there. You got eight fingers right there.
Yeah.
Go in the frying pan.
Money.
Dude, I'm telling you, that's good eating right there. That's some stuff.
That's some good stuff.
You got a question here from Bob. He said you bleed the max before
I don't.
Yeah.
So there it is, y'all. But that's how we do it. It comes. I get that question all the time. You know what I mean? Especially with other captains, we're like, man, you're bringing mackerel in. You know? Well, yeah, because I sent my folks home with almost gallon-sized bag of those right there. They fit them up, and
the 3 ways that I've found that these are best is one is find them with Yaeckel, and my wife is the greatest preparer I've ever encountered. 2 is you can blacken them like you would blacken any fish, and 3 is you can blacken, but instead of using blackening sauce, use Cajun jerk sauce on them.
Right.
And I'm telling you, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
so there it is.
That's it, man.
So
I'm
what's
telling
if
you,
you're
There it
cooking
is.
it one way? What are you doing?
I'm frying it.
Frying it.
Frying it and putting a little lemon and mustard on it. That's me.
Gotcha.
A little lemon and mustard.
And you
Lemon
can
and
tell
mustard.
lemon very fattening.
That's what's got him all blowed up.
Yes, the lemon. All right.
Impressed with that knife for a $5.99 knife.
That thing is
dude,
money.
That's a Rapala knife.
Yeah.
And for $5.99, and these actually they don't hold their edge, but they'll
Take a new one.
they're easy to put a new edge on.
Yeah.
Them. Very, very, very good knife for a knife. Where you at, Travis?
I was trying to find a rag.
I'm fixing to go down and find
Oh,
a sink.
there you go. All right. Hey, Rick.
We'll hold it down. Yo,
Appreciate
I'm
you,
gonna
brother.
use that, man. I like
Appreciate you, brother. That was cool.
Yeah, man.
All right.
I
that.
can't
think
take.
my favorite about mackerel fishing is the mixed bag. That I've
Yeah.
changed gears.
No, that's totally the. I mean, I always tell people when you talk about bay fishing. Because I go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, and I always explain sort of like bay fishing or flat or backcountry fishing. Those are the two, you know, styles of fishing we do. I don't really do any of the near shore stuff, or at least promote. That's when you sort of mix in some of those permit and the AJs, some of the hogfish and stuff like that. So, you know, the two arenas that I normally, I would say, guide in would be that bay fishing and, you know, backcountry. And this time of year, man, mackerel fishing, and we're just on the brink of it. The stuff is the snapper fishing, mangrove snapper fishing.
Absolutely.
And between those two species of fish, you know, it takes the bird off of tarpon, because I'll be tarpon fishing, snapper, mackerel, and grouper sort of gets slid in there as well, you know, and then the occasional could pop up. Yep. So that's sort of the species list that we'll target over the next, you know, month and a half, almost 2 months, as the water's getting hot and you know, inshore fishing just sort of declines. I'm not saying you can't catch fish,
sure,
but it's definitely a very, you know, timely thing. I like that early morning or the late afternoon, evening, you know, you get the hill tide, but generally we're out tarpon fishing. So but it is a really, really active and high-paced, you know, fishing, mackerel fishing. You know, a lot of times what's neat about it is, you know, you'll pull up an area much like trout. If you're sort of on the fish, you kind of can pull into an area, get them excited, and it just going off. Mackerel are one of those fish that I'll pull into an area, and I'm only waiting like 10 minutes. If a mackerel doesn't fire off, or we don't hook a fish, we're moving, you know, because those fish are moving. Now, they'll frequent areas and be around the same area for a while, but, you know, they're movers, never stop moving. Like a guy the other day, and we were mackerel fishing, and we had some fish blowing up behind the back of the boat, you know, in the current, and the fish blew over here, and he tried to throw like right on it, and I was like, dude, you don't have to worry about that. He was like a snook fisherman. I'm like, look, man, that fish that just that one is like already over there, dude. Like, he's gonna eat his. He needs to be ready. You know, they're just a crazy fish fight. Like, if you just want to go fight a fish, man, they never cease to amaze me on how they'll yank some drag and get with it.
You know, you got a mackerel
100%.
when you hook one.
Yeah, it's
make the drag scream and all.
Yeah, like the girls that I had on the boat today, you know, they had, I think one of them had been fishing before, and the other 3 had never even been on a boat. And by the end of the day, you know, they were cranking them in.
Yeah.
I was able to throw them out and let them actually, you know, hook the fish. And so it's one of those fish where, you know, there's not a whole lot of hooksing. The casting doesn't really, you know, take into play a whole bunch.
You don't have time.
It's a very easy fishery, especially, and I don't want to say it's just young kids, but it certainly caters to young kids.
Right. And if you do take kids, though, be careful. They have very sharp teeth. Very sharp teeth.
Yes.
So, in fact, my daughter's a history buff. She's actually a history teacher, and she told me here a while back that the Indians used to actually take the mackerel, take their jawbones, dry them out.
Use them for saws.
Use them to cut. Use them to cut their hair. Use them to cut rope and stuff like that.
I believe they're razor sharp, man.
There was a question there about what do they taste like. Did y'all answer that?
No, we didn't. I figured wait for you.
They don't.
Which one we got there, James?
They don't have a fishy taste if you clean them that way. I don't really know. It's like people ask me they don't taste like a mullet. When I say this, they do not taste like a mullet. But people ask me, what's a mullet taste like?
Good.
Like, no, they just taste good. I know. But a mackerel, it's just it's a mild fish. It's a dense fish. The meat is very dense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not flaky like a trout or a flounder. You don't have that flaky texture to it. It's dense. It's not strong. Yeah. Do it that way. Now, if you keep that bloodline in it, you are going to have a fishy taste.
It'll definitely,
which makes a good fish dip. You know, if you do it that,
right?
You're going to smoke it or put some other flavor on it, some hard flavor.
Mm-hmm. Yep, no doubt, man. So, we have any other questions on as far as the mackerel, like cleaning it or any kind of deal?
Need a saltwater ice bath, mother. Manny,
I agree.
What are you looking for to find mackerel?
I like current.
Yeah.
And I like a transition point from something fairly shallow to fairly deep. The edges of channels, and you know, unlike trout, you know, mackerel will get over hard bottom or no structure or grass, or, you know, trout are more, they're going to have something there, you know, whether it's, you know, rocks or grass to get into. Mackerel aren't, you know, we were talking about pelagic, and they don't, it's unlike any of the other fish that we fish for. You know, the closest one, and we talked about it, and it makes sense, is lakefish. The only ones that when you see them, they're just darting around. They never sit. How many times have you rolled over a redfish or a trout, and they just sit there, you know? So these fish are constantly moving, and so I think when you target them, you got to get into an area that sort of, you know, caters to their style, or, you know, how they are, which is high current areas and bait, plenty of bait.
One thing start. Go ahead. No.
No, say like what you touched on is with concentration. You know, the current is one thing, bait is the next. The transitional point even makes it better. But what I've done in the past is watch the bait fish pattern. They won't always sky. Like the mackerel won't always shoot out and say, "Hey, I'm right here." But if you watch that bait pattern, then bait's, you know, boiling here and then shifts away. And if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you get out there, you'll eventually see that bait
and
make
they're not
turns.
skying like mullet every 3 minutes or 30 seconds. It's a lot less. If you're paying attention, you might not ever see one.
Right.
But if you do start mackerel fishing and try to hone your skills on it, what you'll find is you pattern those mackerel just like you're talking about patterning the bait. They're going to be at the same places every year at the same time. When those attempts get a certain, they're going to be there. Yeah. And, you know, luckily for us, and I know a lot of y'all watching the same way, y'all have. We're not telling a lot of y'all nothing right now. Hopefully we are on a few, but we've fished long enough, and a lot of people have, that I've probably got 10 good mackerel spots in the bay that they might be eating there every time I go, but there's always another one close by.
Sure.
And if you try to hone your skills and become a good mackerel fisherman, if the weather permits, you should never take a day from, I would say, April to October and not be able to catch a mess of fish.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. I mean, they're fun, you know. And there was a comment on here I read from, I think it was Bob, where he said Captain Rick, or no, it wasn't Bob, it was Bo. Bo said, "You know where y'all are going to be, and I'll bring you the nasty mackerel I catch." Well, I'm right there. I'm right there with you, bro. And there's a lot of people that are in the same boat. For me personally, oddly enough, I don't even eat a lot of fish. I may eat fish 2 or 3 times a year.
Me too.
But one of the things that we take for granted a lot, especially, you know, growing up in the area or even living in Florida, is we have access to all kinds of stuff throughout the year, you know, whether it's grouper, snappers, this, that. And I'm sure it's not the best fish in the ocean.
No, I'm not saying that.
But when it comes to particular stuff that we do, like taking kids fishing or taking folks that aren't as, you know, or that don't want to go catch, you know, game fish. They just want to catch a lot of fish. An experience thing, sort of where a lot of that caters to, but the guys that want to have fish fries, the guys that want to keep quite a few fish, it's a fish that, and a fishery that can sustain, you know, taking a pretty decent amount of fish for something like that. And so, you know, those are the biggest reasons why I mackerel fish. I mean, hey, a buddy called me up and I had the day off and goes, "Hey, man, let's go do some fishing." We're not going mackerel fishing. Like, you know, that's not what I'm saying for me personally. But, you know, the guys that like fishing the reefs, the guys with the big boats that can't get into the flats, you know, this is the time of year where those wrecks, those reefs, the channel markers, the range markers, all those areas are going to have a lot of these fish. And the cool thing about mackerel fishing, when you set up mackerel fish, snapper on the bottom, and cobia, especially this time of year. You know, if you're doing a lot of live chumming, you know, you're creating a feeding frenzy. And especially, I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but when you start catching a lot of Spanish mackerel, other stuff falls in.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, those mackerel are darting around. They're flat on the surface. You know, big cobia, the big school of jacks rolls on you.
Yep.
You know, twice last year we were fishing an area and we were just mackerel fishing, and when a hammerhead come up in the same spot, it came up twice. I don't know if it was the same one, but So it's one of those things where, especially for a charter, it really is a good time, and it's something that serves both sides. It's a good time, lot of action, and like we just showed you, people like to eat them.
Yeah. The one I want to answer. Well, I can't see it now, but the question.
Optim depth from Ken.
No. There was a question before that from Roy. Any benefit to cutting around the blood as opposed to cutting out after skinning? No, not at all. It's just this, to me, to skin it and try to cut that blood out is not as easy as doing it the way we just showed you.
I tell you too, like especially when you have a lot of fish, like I was saying, I'll try to leave a little bit of meat on that skin. It seemed like when I skim, like let's say you were to take that fillet and before you stripped it out to take the side chunks off, if you were just to skin that whole fillet, mackerel's a tough one to fillet because the skin is really tight to the meat and it's thin.
Yep. Sometimes a nice, not super sharp is actually better for you.
Right, because it'll dice right through it. And I actually cleaned some of the mackerel that I cleaned today, cleaned about 6 of them for fillets they wanted to put on the grill. I left 3 or 4 of them with some skin on them because they had a little smoker, and then the rest of it I bagged up into.
That was going to be my next question. Do you leave the skin on if they're gonna smoke them?
I do. Yeah. I mean, they can take it off if they can take it off if they want.
We planned on doing smoke.
When you smoke fish, you want a little fishy taste.
You want fat. You want that game in there.
You want that gameness to it.
Right.
Where if frying it,
it's too quick of a cook.
And I think too, when you smoke it too, it gives it that base so that stuff just doesn't fall apart while it's smoking.
Yep.
But that's what you can do with them, And I said, man, it's just we wanted to bring it in. We've been asked several times. It comes around Doc all the time about cleaning the mackerel, so we had an opportunity to do it tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Follow up with any questions or let us know if there's another fish that maybe we thought about flounder.
And we had one.
We had one. So maybe we'll do a flounder one day, and then if there's anything else that you guys think of, I mean, we ain't bringing in nothing crazy.
Yeah, it's cool.
But
it's amazing how many people that fish a lot. I've seen so many people cleaning like over at O'Neill's cleaning their mackerel, and some guides. And then guys may do it because it does take a little time to do that.
It does take a little extra
versus
time.
Just taking that and going flip.
100%.
Yeah.
So maybe the time thing, but even though it's a mackerel and it's not one of our prime fish, personally, my thoughts on it are, it's a fish and I want to get the optimum out of him. If I'm going to take fish's life, I want to get the best out of him I can. So I'm going to take a little time. What's 5 minutes at the end of the day?
Another one before we shred off of that, we're going to do some trivia. But the other one is if you soak that fish in milk or buttermilk before you
done that,
particularly frying it. But if you do soak it in some milk or some buttermilk, you're going to draw, as much more of that gamey. The milk will turn a little pink. And that'll help you out a little bit too to put a bit more of that game out of there. But honestly, man, I've been sending that stuff with people for years now, and I have not had one person text me back or call me and say that stuff was horrible.
I've had people come back and say
they want to go fish for them.
I had my friend and his wife over for dinner last night, and daughter and son-in-law. We had a big pile of mackerel and a pile of trout. And 2 of them at the table said, I like the mackerel better.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
I had clients say that last week.
But Blake, reeled in a bluefish this past weekend. What's your opinion on catching and eating?
Ooh, there's another one. I'm gonna estimate the blues, man. Me?
Do this.
Me too.
I'm gonna exit blues, but
they have
it's
hope.
The same type of scenario.
Here's the hope for the bluefish, because I think they're horrible. But you can take a bluefish, clean him, and cut the bloodline out. You can't clean the way I just cleaned the mackerel, but you can cut that bloodline out.
Bleed them is when you catch them. That's when you bleed right when you catch them.
And put them on the grill and just dry them out on the grill. Or you can put them on the grill with the skin on and then pick the meat off away from the blood and make crab cakes out of them, and they're fantastic.
Or you put it on a cedar plank, put all your fixing and
but no, they make if you use bluefish, seriously, if you use bluefish meat as a crab substitute, I've had it 2 or 3 times because I got a client from upstate New York that makes them when he comes down, and they are fantastic. I'm serious.
I wonder now.
I'm serious.
Now the Bush,
I'd eat a dozen of them.
But do you think those cold? You know, that's a popular thing in North, man. Is you hear these guys, when the Blues running, I'll get the guys in the report. You know, when are the Blues running? Are the Blues running? I'm like, no, dude. Like,
no, they don't run.
I don't really look for them to run.
We run from
I
them.
run from them. Yeah.
But if you're gonna eat,
I'm wondering, and if
that's
we got
really
anybody from up north, you know, that watches the show or that's watching, that can comment on it, you know, and maybe it's tried both. Is there a difference in, you know, that northern bluefish versus the southern, you know, bluefish? Because I know they're not as big.
Yeah.
You know, they get some big bluefish up there.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if maybe that colder water, you know, is it a better tasting fish up there?
One of the guys
I don't
who's
know.
here at the shop, Brian, he spent a lot of time in New Jersey up there running a charter boat for years, and he said that they'd eat blues all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
I've had
I
a
hear it all
price.
the time. Like I said, I mean, if it was that bad, I think it would be. Maybe that's all they got.
I've
mean,
had
Stripers and
them
blues.
twice cooked like you would cook your fish,
Right.
and it was bad both times. When they were put into the crab cakes, they were great.
Huh.
The crab
So-
cakes, crab patties. All right, well, let's do a little trivia, man. Let's give something away.
Trivia. All right, so we put it all away, but we've got kind of a mackerel starter kit, some long shank
kit.
spoon. You know, it'll definitely get you started. We also circle back to that tip about
We're gonna-
50-pound leader.
Yeah, we'll do a little trail on that. We'll end with some tips.
Cool. So this is going to be a tricky one because you've got to spell it right. Spelling counts.
Spell counts on this
All
one.
right. We want to know the Latin, otherwise known as the scientific name of the Spanish mackerel.
There it is.
You're lucky we're not going to make you come and pronounce it,
Yes, spelling.
but spelling does
Spelling
matter.
matters.
First person to throw up the scientific name or the Latin name Spanish mackerel.
And it'll make you think of Jurassic Park.
Find that with all fish scientific.
Dude, them things
Sure.
look like dinosaurs, man. T-Rex. They are gnarly. So while they're trying to figure that out, while I was Googling, let's talk a little bit about mackerel rigs, because James just mentioned, I was talking to him today, and you were doing some mackerel fishing. I said, hey man, try this. And you know, if you've been around mackerel, we alluded to it a little while ago, you've been off. You've lost your leaders, you've lost your hooks. You'll come back with nothing but main line. You'll take the whole entire deal.
3 feet a leader.
Yeah, 3 feet a leader.
Well,
So
you know why that happens?
a lot of times it's the same fish, or they
Your bait runs a
or
line.
exactly. Yep.
Hang on.
What do
You're
we
gonna have
got?
all right, so we've got Kimmy was first. Scumberomerus maculata. She got it.
Yeah.
Kimmy.
That was
Oh, Steven.
Steve,
Dude,
you got to
that
work on
was
your
on
spelling,
Jurassic
man.
Steve. Boy, I had so much faith
A
in you. man.
Maculus. A
So much
Scumberoma
faith in you, Liverpool.
This is great. See, this is what has to be the best part. This is this part.
What is that thing? A commerce.
Cormerson? Cormorant? Way to go, kid. So stop by Fishing Outfitters and get with Eddie behind the counter, and we'll get you hooked up. A nice little starter pack. Nice job.
Cool. So, real quick, guys, we got a few minutes. If you got any questions on mackerel, go ahead and fire off. I'm going to tell you real quick how I'm only rigged for mackerel. I'd probably say most of us are real close, but same rods that I would use here that I would use inshore, 10-pound braid, 10, 15-pound braid, down to a 25-pound leader, about 2 foot of that, and tie about 18 inches of 40 on there, or, you know, a foot 40.
Yeah.
Now, you can go 40 all the way up and tie it, and, you know, it doesn't matter, but I found that little tip of the 40 will keep, you know, a lot of those hooks intact, especially when you're targeting mackerel. Now, if you're going to slide and try to do a trout combo deal, it's really not necessary, just a couple more hooks. But if you're mackerel fishing, that's probably the quickest way, is to just tie a little heavier leader down at the bottom. You can put a little, you know, shot of wire leader on there. Back in the day, I used a lot of number 1 live bait J's, and what I would do is just a little shorty shank deal, and would go ahead and pre-make little wire leaders on about 3 inches, and haywire twist on each end, you know. And as we were fishing, they broke off. I would just tie those on, and so it was basically a long shank hook. Only I made them up with wire,
That's how I've always done it.
with wire instead of, you know, the long shank hook. But
here anymore. These days, especially when the bite gets hot, a box of those 2X long, 1/0 or 2/0, and just let it rip. A lot of the mackerel that you catch, funny, because a lot of the ones you catch, that long shank hook, you could take your line and just around their mouth, and it's just barely hanging out of their mouth. Yeah. So, a lot of times, you look at the hook and go, come on, man, really? He's going to eat that?
Yeah.
And, that hook is, it's a good 2 inches long, the shank of it. And so it helps, with the break-offs, because that's really all you need.
You don't want to do like when you're snooks, if you get a little scaife on the line, retie it.
Game over.
But you're going to retie it every time you get it.
Yeah. Let it ride.
Just let it
ride.
Just
keep going.
Let me begin, Coach.
I had a client last week, man. So this is actually how I used that rig. I had the 40-pound mono or fluoro on the end of it. We busted mackerel up. And he's like, is this good? It's got the curly stuff on it. I was like, man,
dude, let it ride.
Let it ride. Next fish, 50-pound cobia. And I'm like, the whole time I'm thinking, man, I should have retied that.
The one you let ride.
Frail. Yeah, I saw him tune in a little while, but yeah, he got it to the boat and got it in, but I was nervous the whole time.
When it always happens,
man.
I'm
like, man,
we caught a story time, but we caught a 40-pound kingfish. But probably between 40 and 50-pound kingfish. I was telling you this story tonight. We were mackerel fishing. And a lot of times, not when I've got 4 people, but I've got a couple guys, I'll take a rod and just let it rip.
Yeah.
You're out there in the middle of nowhere. So I'll just let one rip, way up the back of the boat. And I just took a regular mackerel rig, long shank hook, 10-pound, deal, and threw it out the back. And we're sitting there, and these guys are catching mackerel, having a good time. And we sort of forgot about that rod in the back. And all of a sudden, goes off. And I'm like, this thing's not stopping, I got like a little old cheapy, long shank hook and probably old gangstered up lure. And here we go. We come off anchor. We chase this thing down. It was a big old kingfish. So you never know when you start getting that activity, especially in the bay, everything's moving, everything's traveling, especially with the tides. And so when you get out there and sort of shut up shop, you never
surprised to get a big
you never know what's going to come around, man. That's the coolest part about it. Like when you're inshore and you're fishing a flat, or let's just say you're fishing a mangrove shoreline, the odds of catching some of the crazy, you have a very narrow band of things you're going to catch. You kind of got an idea. When you're in the bay, man,
you don't know.
Like I was fishing one of the local reefs last year, just at the start of winter, and we were catching snook on the reef, like we were catching them in the backcountry.
Yep.
I'm telling you, they were coming up to 18 feet of water and exploding on the surface, and we were catching them.
So
you just never know.
The other day doing the same thing.
It's gnarly.
Huge snook.
Yeah. It's gnarly.
Huge snook fishing reef.
Yep.
Yeah. Doing some bumping around, checking grouper spot.
Yep.
The first drop down, big thready. Feel the thump. There he is. Couldn't believe what it was.
Yeah. Oh, they're out there, man. That's the cool thing about fishing the bay. Yeah. That really, really is. When you get inshore, everything gets funneled down. But when it's bay, you really don't know, man.
I think evolution's taken us to deeper water too. Over the years, we're starting to do that.
Yeah. Well, there's all sea bass. There's room now.
Don't make me come over there. Don't make me come over there.
Oh man.
Yeah, Ty's there because he was with me when that happened. We were in the afternoon doing some fishing afterwards. And I was like, let's go check a couple spots. We go look for some tarpon, check a grouper hole, and
you never know, man. Especially some of these bay spots now. And the thing about the bay, fishing, the deep parts of the bay is every year there's more growth. There's things shift, fish move, new habitat kind of takes over an area. There's spots that I used to fish, a while ago, or even say like 3 or 4 years ago, and they were okay. And I'll go back and check them a year or two later, and they just start to get on fire. And maybe a spot that didn't get as much pressured, or like I said, it's changed, a big growth, or, something happened, or fish moved into that area. So that is the one cool thing about every year. You kind of bust out the numbers, and it's like, all right, let's go. Oh, I got to hit that, go hit that spot. And you just really never know, man. Yeah. So it's a time of year. It is hot. Wear your sunscreen. Take plenty of water, man. I've had several people blacken my boat, and It all happens.
You're working them way too
it
hard.
all happens when we're bait fishing, man. It all happens when we're bait
Catching too
fishing.
many
They
fish.
pull the anchor.
Look, when they start catching too many fish, if they're
Just
blacking
sit
out.
down. Sit down.
Calm them
Oh,
down.
when that happens, I get to float home and eat Publix chicken and a bag of goodies. But anyhow, guys, we got a few minutes left here.
I want to plug, since Ty just made that comment, I want to plug, he's coming in next week to do a
Cool.
seminar.
Yeah.
It's going to be 6:30 next Wednesday, the 20th. We're going to be doing that together. We're going to do a little near shore kind of fill in the box, snapper fishing inside the bay, trying to pull some group rod, stuff like that. So for the folks that can't make it out,
Sounds cool.
make those long runs, we're going to talk about some of that inside the bay. Mackerel will probably be one too. So we can give some first-hand mows on some of those rigs. So if you've nothing going on next Wednesday, come into the shop. These guys will be here too doing the show. We'll be downstairs doing a live seminar.
Sounds like a plan.
I
Sounds
like
like a plan. Well, guys, we appreciate it. If you don't have any other questions, we got a little bit of a thunderstorm rolling in on us, so we're going to pack it in and head up to the house and get after it in the morning.
Thanks for spending your time with us. We appreciate you.
Guys, we appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
Out.
See you guys.